Hi, everyone. I hope this message finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing Sunya Joynes, a shaman who embodies the energy of the Heyoka or sacred clown with every fiber of her being. The Heyoka or sacred clown is a powerful figure in Lakota and Dakota tradition, a force of paradox and transformation. Heyoka shamans use humor, satire, and paradox to challenge perception, provoke thought, and heal emotional wounds. Sunya didn't just step into this role, she was guided, shaped, and transformed from the moment of her awakening when the loss of her husband Gary cracked open a door to an entirely new existence, and she started following the call of spirit. Sunya is now walking what is called the twin flame path, when two halves of the same soul are destined to challenge, heal, and elevate each other. This connection is not always easy, but it is always profound, pushing both individuals towards their highest selves. Sunya is a guiding light who recognizes that joy is sacred, transformation is inevitable, and laughter is one of the most profound forms of healing. Through her book, The Story of Sunya's Magic Hat, her teachings, and her work, she inspires us all to step into our highest selves and embrace the current shift in consciousness that is reshaping social, spiritual, and philosophical perspectives called the Great Awakening. I'm looking forward to talking with Sunya, who will be speaking to us from the UK about her personal transformation that began with the passing of her husband, how profound loss can become a gateway to awakening, the magic hidden within loss, how Heyoka energy taught Sunya to flip her perspective, her twin flame journey, how the Great Awakening is our time of collective rebirth, and more. Fascinating interview that is bound to bring us joy, laughter, and a higher understanding of consciousness. Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, Sunya. A warm welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Well, it's magic to be here, Irene, and finally meet you.
It is a pleasure. I mean,
an honor and a privilege and a synchronicity, all in divine timing.
You reached out to me so long ago, and it's so wonderful to be talking with you now. I really want everyone to get to know your story because it's different and fascinating, because you experienced a great awakening after your husband transitioned. So you've been a few different people in your life. There was the Lisa in your life with your husband, Gary, and now you're Sunya. Can you tell us about your journey and how these transformations took place?
Wow.
It's a mouthful. You don't have to go on and on and on. Just give us a little succinct understanding, because you've really been through. I transformed also after my spiritual awakening. I could say also, I could break my life into 2 or 3 different chapters. So let's hear about, you had 3 different chapters.
Well, I just don't know where to start really, because so much has happened, but I was living a normal life. But I didn't realize then that I wasn't what's called awake. So I was born into the family that I chose for whatever reason, well, which I am aware of now. And people ask me, well, why are you awake? Or did you have any spiritual, were you spiritual before your awakening? And I thought, well, I was open to, I had an open mind. I always believed that energy is everything. We are energy. And I always believed that, when we leave our bodies, that's not it. Whereas my my dad does think that. He thinks it's it.
So
um,
you were really your own person, even as a child, because you had your own feelings and thoughts that were different than your parents, right?
yeah, and that's obviously one of the reasons why I chose to be born into that through that mother and father. But because through my childhood, I learned independence. But independence is also about learning about the self, coming back to self. But it was like I was prepared for becoming independent when Gary departed, but I didn't know that then. So yeah, I met Gary when I was 15, and it's like my soul knew I'm meant to be with him.
Wow.
And it was 9 years after I met him that we got married.
You had a long courtship, but you were growing up.
Well, there's that saying, once bitten, twice shy. He almost married somebody else, and then
Ooh.
he met me. So he wasn't going to rush into anything, I don't suppose. But but we always knew that we were meant to be together anyway. So yes. So to cut a long story very short, the last 13 years of our life together was focused on running our small business. So we sort of landscape gardening. I retrained. Actually, I'd studied archaeology for 10 years. That's another story. But then I went into garden design so we could work together. And but there's this spiritual pun. There's always this spiritual humor underlying current. It's like we were gardeners, but we were gardeners of gardens. But now I've become a gardener of energies. But I realize all this now. But we were
You're
just
planting seeds now and you're growing.
exactly. But we were just working hard, doing what most people do, thinking that we were going to grow old together, looking forward to retirement, all those sort of things. And then boom,
He got very sick or
we think we've got plans. God, they say God laughs at plans. So Gary obviously started to experience, well, he used to do he had to work out estimates, quotes for the work. We were self-employed. He couldn't, he started having problems writing,
oh,
reading, visually, and he drove into things, and then he wasn't walking. Anyway, and he
oh, how
started
scary and upsetting for him. Oh,
he,
wow.
and then started to get really intense pain in his head.
My.
So again, cut a long story short, when he finally got a diagnosis by a consultant, we knew it was a brain tumor, but we didn't know what kind. So we landed up in another consultation with the brain surgeon, and it was like there was a big chunk of something missing. It was like they thought we knew what kind it was. So she just sort of said, well, you've got 2 to 3 months to live, you know.
Oh, my.
I mean, like, what? Because his best friend had a brain tumor and had
My.
a different kind and survived. And we thought, oh, well, it'll be cut out and he'll be fine. But no, he was told, you've got 2 to 3 months to live. You've got the worst brain tumor you can get, and there's no way you can beat it. And so that was.
That was it.
So if he didn't choose to do anything about it, he would have had 2 to 3 months to live. But he chose to have surgery and then radio and chemotherapy. So basically, it was like they told him, you're basically buying time. And well, it was such a shock. We thought, well, you've got to have surgery just so we can sort everything out before you die, you know. So he 20 months of extra life. But I realise now that it was all meant to happen. And I realise now that we did our grieving while he was still alive. So
I was just going to say that in a way you got to do that and you got to say everything you had to say to him, I would imagine, and vice versa.
well, we grieved together while he was alive, so that when he actually took his last breath, it was like we were both in bliss and ecstasy. So he went off to source and was in bliss, and I'm still embodied, but I was in bliss. I was blessed, and it was like people thought it was very strange that I would be so happy and in ecstasy after my husband had just died.
Were you with him when he died? Did you have a shared death experience or anything like that with him?
Well, the last month or two, so in December 2020, he was at home in a hospice bed, and I was witnessing him being prepared spiritually. So
You
he
were
was,
able to see that?
yeah, because he was like in an altered state of consciousness, but so he was talking to somebody, but I could ask him a question and he could still respond to me. And I asked him, "Who are you talking to?" And he said, "There's a lovely man sat on my bed." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Life." So I was making notes of conversations. I mean, one minute he was like laughing his head off, and the next minute he'd be crying his eyes out. And I realized he was having like a life review before he could go, because he wasn't spiritual at all in life, and he hadn't done any healing. I know he had healing to do, but he always sort of ignored that. So it was like he couldn't go until he'd had a life review. Whereas my understanding now is you have a life review after you've crossed the veil, but no, he had to have one before. And the most amazing thing, I must tell you this, is that so in his altered state of consciousness, he was lying in bed and he was going like that. "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And I had a profound realization what he was doing when he was actually in the hospice, because he was moved to a hospice. And bearing in mind this all happened during COVID, so yeah, that was all very tricky. But anyway, so I was sat by his bedside in the hospice for, it was just over 3 weeks. I mean, there's so much I could talk about, but I have to condense it all. But through a friend, and I had plenty of time, just sat there. I was reading books and doing research on my lap. I was guided to a painting which is behind me, The Light of the World, and I'd never seen it before. And when I saw that painting, I just knew that that's what was happening. Jesus had knocked, and Gary had to open the door. But in his altered state of consciousness, he was saying, he was knocking back on the door, saying, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" So it was like he wasn't meant to go just yet. And it was like a month later, on the 29th of January, that the moment came and he just let whoosh. It was like so quickly, it made me laugh.
Wow.
I mean, you don't expect to laugh when your husband dies, but it was like, oh, there's more to the story than that, but it was very profound, and I knew something. I'd been guided to a website called lonerwolf.com, and which I realized the experience I'd been having was an awakening. I thought, oh, that's what's happening. I'm having a spiritual awakening, and there's a connection.
Gary was in a way your doorway to your awakening, right?
It was. I mean, I'll say it now, it was the biggest gift he could give me. And it was all meant to happen this way, because it was like we obviously have a soul contract for him to die to wake me up so I could get on and actually do the work I originally came here for. But it took until I was about 50, yeah, to do it. But I had to leave a normal human life
Well, but
to,
if you lead the normal human life, like me, we have so many similarities in our
yeah.
stories because when Saul died, I had my awakening also, and it changed my life. I think the way I've seen it, and like you, I had a very difficult early years in certain ways, but I think they were my preparation for where I am now. Because if I hadn't experienced those things, I wouldn't understand when I'm helping people or when I'm talking with people. Would you say that that would apply to you also?
Yes, because through your experiences of living a normal life, you have the compassion and the empathy with other people. And that's why we're here to help. We've woken up. I mean, we didn't know we were going to wake up,
Right.
but we did. I mean, obviously, our higher self, our soul did, but we didn't in our bodies. And then it happened, and you understand what's happened. And then you know that you've got to help other people that it's happening to, and they think, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Because some people think they're going mad, and other people are just behaving really crazily and happy, and you just think, well, what's happening to me? And then you need somebody like us to say, well, actually, this is all part of waking up.
That's right. And come join us and come join
Yes.
us. Right. So your first, after Gary transitioned, you had a telephone meeting with a medium that was transformative for you. So like now the door opens, you don't know quite what's happening, but you're starting to go into the door, and then you have this telephone meeting with a medium. You want to share that because this became your gateway to awakening, right? And then you began to realize that you were supposed to work together. from across the veil.
I sort of knew that anyway while all this was happening, something in me, within me, one of my strongest clairsentience cognizance, claircognizance or gnosis, knowing. I have I have to trust my intuition, which is why I have it tattooed on my arm now. Trust what you know to be true.
That's fabulous.
And that's another story about tattoos. Me and my husband didn't used to like tattoos or didn't understand them, but since he's gone, I'm covered in them now. Yeah, we haven't got the space or the time to talk about that, but I've got two messages that came from Gary tattooed on my arms, and that's one of them. It was through
Oh, tell us, read it what they are. I love what this one, trust what you know to be true. And what's the other one?
Trust what you know to be true came through a tarot card that I drew, but I knew it was Gary giving me that card. And then the other one actually came through that telephone call with the medium, and he said, "Never the pain shall we part again." So that's on my other arm.
Wow.
But it had to be a telephone call because it was COVID. So I mean, he couldn't see what I had around me, and basically, I had various things around me, and he told me what they were. And through the process of working out what they were, it was very funny actually. But my husband, there's a connection to monkeys, like mischievous monkeys, and spirit is very mischievous, it likes to have fun with us. So it's all very
fascinating.
But one thing that I had a red T-shirt on from a racetrack in Italy, Imola, and I didn't get it till about a year after, and I'd recorded the interview on my iPad because I'm not a great techie person, so I had the phone call going on, and I thought, well, how can I record that? And but I worked out how to video myself on my iPad, and then I was watching it back about a year later because the guy kept saying Lola, Lola, and I was thinking, well, there's a song called Lola, but I couldn't get the connection. And then a year later, and I was watching myself back, and it just clicked. Gary was trying to give me that synchronicity. I had this T-shirt on, and it's Imola. So he was getting the last bit, Lola, Imola.
Oh, wow.
And then I just saw it, and I thought, that's what he was trying to say, that I was wearing it was his T-shirt, his Imola red T-shirt. So that was just one amazing.
What a fabulous sign. Fabulous sign. So, and you just always sensed that you two would be working together. Because
Yeah.
I was told by mediums that Saul and I were meant to work, and you just knew from inside of yourself, from your
Yes.
perspective. I really want to know also, tell us about this Heyoka energy, because people listening to this, what is that? When did you learn about it, and how did it teach you to flip your perspective, which is so important when we're going through things, to change the way we're mindsetting what we're doing? And who is this Heyoka sacred clown who advises us not to take life so seriously? I mean, that's the antithesis of what most people think should be going on when you're going through something like you went through.
Well, there's just so much to say, but Gary embodied that, and I'm getting a wave of emotion now. He embodied that energy because he was life path 3, which is known as the entertainer. So it's like that clown-like energy. And I was just having such fun, and just it was like I knew I was like shining my light and helping people just remember how to have fun even when you've lost somebody. But again, this was at the very early stages of my journey. It was like I've had an accelerated awakening, but I was just a rebel for life. I started going to Extinction Rebellion things, marches, and I went to the big one in my hat. And
I love your hat.
and
I
I
just
was
think it's fabulous.
putting a face paint on, tribal face paint, and there was the connection to the wolf, the Lakota wolf tribe. Wolf spirit, it guides spiritual awakening. Gary died at full wolf moon, January the 29th, that's what it was called. And I've since learned that it all goes back to the 12 tribes, Israel's, and even further back, but he was from the tribe of Benjamin, whose symbol is a wolf, and I'm from the tribe of line of Judah, and I'm a Leo. So it's all like spiritual, magical weaving of all these timelines and things. But I've also been told, and I know this, the more I expand and wake up and do this work, I know so many beings work through me, but I have this link to North America and South America, and I could go off on a side thing about the prophecy when the eagle and the condor, the eagle from the north and the condor from the south come together, that prophecy and rainbow warriors and all those sort of things. But
Tell
I've
us quickly about that prophecy. That's fascinating. There's a prophecy that, and when is this supposed to take place?
now this
Now.
is
We're
happening.
we're living it right now.
So it's like the Mayan prophecy, but all the original indigenous peoples, the ancient ones, they all have their own sort of prophecy. I can't remember what they're called, but this particular one is the prophecy. I think it's the Hopi prophecy, and it's about when the two come together, then the whole world will heal and be able to live in harmony with each other, like heaven on earth again. And it's happening. We're in the thick of it now.
We're going to talk more about that too, because I have another question about that. And that's fascinating because right now,
Mhm.
most of us just perceive the chaos that's going on. We don't realize we're in the thick of
We're
this
birthing a
amazing
new world. Birth is chaotic, it's painful, and we're in the birth. In the birth for now.
It's happening now. Is it supposed to be completed by the end of the year? Is there a timeline, or it's about choice and up to us humans?
Well, this is what makes me laugh, really, because from other spiritual teachers, I understand that the collective, of the consciousness of humanity, has already chosen to wake up and say yes. Typical, isn't it? Do we do this the easy way or the hard way? We seem to have chosen the hard way.
It's amazing, right? And the other thing I want to ask you is Heyoka energy
Yeah.
teaches people to flip their perspective. Grief isn't just an ending, it's a transformation, a
Mm.
shedding of old identity, making way for something entirely new, which you have completely done and which also happened to me. How did you originally learn about the Heyoka energy?
Well, I was trying to remember that was the original question. And go back to it. So I'm surrounded by North American Indians and South American. So there's the connection. So the Heyoka, but also the answering the call to the Andean lineage. But we'll stick with the North American because the Lakota. So the North American Indians, they usually have a sacred clown archetype within their tribe, the Heyoka. They know it as the Heyoka. So if they're having like a serious get together and the Heyoka comes in and starts taking the mick, having fun, saying lighten up, don't take it so seriously. When I started to embody, I started to dress up for these marches as like a shaman and put face paint on, and it was like also it's about balancing your masculine feminine energies. So this links into the twin flame. We have to balance. So again, Mother Earth called me up to restore the balance, and then the twin flame journey restores the balance, and we have to balance the divine masculine and the divine feminine within us before we get the balance on the outside of us. So it's all about balance. And the Heyoka is basically, I was going to these marches not as a member of these organizations, but to inject fun. Don't take it so seriously. Yes, we need to be passionate and want to make change. We've got to break the systems and everything. But remember to have fun. And I was like, landed up in my archetype as Heyoka, leading the whole march across Westminster Bridge in my magic hat, which is in my book. So, all these sort of crazy things, and I realised, and I was being guided to the information. I thought, well, I'm actually embodying this archetype, and then I was called. Then I realised that I am actually a hollow bone, an instrument for spirit to work through. So that was one archetype, which is one of the strongest ones that works through me, and also Quetzalcoatl, who is Lord of the Middle World, this feathered serpent from the South American Andean lineage.
But it's not scary. It's a helpful
It's very
energy.
powerful. So what I realized was I was like embodying very powerful masculine energy. And then maybe a year or so after that, and I was being called to take my magic to Stonehenge and Glastonbury and London on these marches, and this really powerful energy flowing through me, like a warrior, like a spiritual warrior. And it was amazing. Well, it is amazing. And then it started to balance out, and I was at Stonehenge, and a photographer took a picture of me, And it was actually in this hat. And looking back at that photo, it's like, yep, I'm balanced now. That masculine energy has calmed down, and I'm like both masculine
Well,
and
they've
feminine.
balanced you, so now you're prepared to help so many other people because you're balanced. You're bringing them balance, and I know that you took your all of these things that happened to you, and you chose to go to a shamanic training. And so, can you tell us about that trip? Because not everyone listening is that familiar. I know that the training school was called the Four Winds Shamanic Training School, and it you have a shamanic lineage that it got you in touch with. And I'd love to hear how you have helped someone to heal through a shamanic healing session.
Well, I need to backtrack a little bit before I talk about the four winds. I didn't even know what a shaman was, even though I'd studied archaeology for like 10 years.
Right.
I must have
And so,
come across.
right, and join a lot of people listening to us. They don't really know what a shaman is either. That's why I really want to educate them, as because they picture it as this crazy thing. And what are you doing? And I've been part of a shamanic training healing also, so I'm familiar with it. Go ahead, tell us where you're going with this.
You'd think I would have heard of a shaman having studied archaeology, but I didn't really know what it was. So I was embodying all this masculine spiritual warrior energy, and I was guided to a workshop in the New Forest at a place called the Retreat by a lady who was a shaman. And she was doing a warrior woman workshop, and I thought, oh, I need to go to that. And then after that, she was doing a training and cacao ceremony. And so this ties into the book. So this is where the story starts. Well, it sort of continues really. So this place called the Retreat, where this shamanic training was happening, is where Alice Liddell lived, who inspired Lewis Carroll to write Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So it's like the Mad Hatter clown again. And I was following white rabbits everywhere. I'd been following white rabbits on the Camino, which I did in 2022. But this actually goes back even further than that to Moomin Troll stories, but going off on a tangent. So yes, this Mad Hatter shamanic clown had chosen to work through me, and somehow I can't remember now. I came to understand what it was, and I just answered the calling. I can't even remember now, but I was guided. Well, it was the wolf spirit guiding me, because it's been guiding me since the full wolf moon. And the four winds is Alberto Rioldo and Marcela Lobos. Well, Lobos means wolf, and their shamanic monastery in Chile is Los Lobos, which is the wolf sanctuary. So it's just
no accidents, no accidents. Can you describe a shamanic healing session where you've helped someone to heal? So there may be people listening to this who would love to do this. They might want to do this with you. So can you describe what takes place and how it helps a person?
Yes, so there's lots of different shamanic traditions, and why have I answered the call to a lineage in Peru, the Andean lineage? And it's all connected. I don't need to go into that now, but I did, and I was meant to, because it's heart-centered medicine, the Moon Eye Key. And can you say the question again?
Sure. I want to know, have you helped someone to heal through a shamanic healing session? Could you describe that to us?
So if we accept that everything is energy, it's all energy work. So a lot of healers, it's energy work, whether it's Reiki, whether it's Rahani. There's just so many different, whether it's acupuncture or whatever. But this is it's energy work. So and I was remembering, because I already know this from the infinite consciousness. It's just I had to have the training to remember how to do it, and then it just came naturally to me. So we were taught the processes, but now I don't even have to do the processes that I was taught to do. I improvise. Spirit improvises through me. So the main thing I concentrate on, and if there was one thing out of the whole training that I could do for anybody, it would be a chakra reset, because the chakras are so important.
So you help people to release the blockages in their chakras?
Yes. So I can do remote work on people if they're not here.
So if somebody wanted to contact you from anywhere in the world, you could do
Yeah.
this remotely for them.
Yeah, it's what we did in our training. There were people from all over the world training online, and we were working on each other. Somebody in Australia did a soul retrieval on me, so, and I was working on people in America and Canada and Germany and Turkey, because it's energy. When you call on energy, it's like instant. It's instant, and your energy body, your light body, is there in, well, we open our sacred space to work in. And it's
Right.
the shaman's cave, the quantum field of timelessness. So when your energy body is in front of me, I put my hands on the heart chakra and the sacral chakra, and then I just trust spirit to do what it needs to do for that person. I would have done lots of sort of exploratory things beforehand to know what I'm dealing with, what the issues are. I use oracle cards, and muscle testing, things like that, divination to build a story. So it's all about stories. Build the story of that person and what their wounds and traumas are, and where there's stuck energy and blockages. So even a chakra reset would normally take 20, 30 minutes. If spirit knows see if I meet somebody on a spiritual retreat and they know that I'm not going to see that person again and they need a soul retrieval, then a chakra reset becomes a soul retrieval, and it could take 2 hours. But I'm having visions. The person, depending on how open their third eye is, they could have visions. They have body sensations. And the elementals work through me as well. So my body moves in my body. I say to them, you might feel me moving around. I might, if you feel an emotion that needs releasing, scream, shout, laugh, cry, whatever needs to come through. And I said, if you don't do it, I have to do it. So I was working on somebody the other day and I just had floods of tears, so I just trust the process. Our spiritual teams work through us and do what's needed.
I want to ask you what exactly, I know what it is. I've experienced it, but for those who don't, can you explain why does a person's soul need retrieving? What is that about? And then I want to go on to ask you to talk about your book, The Story of Sunya's Magic. So, but just for people to understand, why would my soul need retrieving? Where did it go? Can you explain that to people?
Where do I start? So it could be something in this lifetime, or it could be a past or a future lifetime. But as my husband in spirit told me, everything is happening all together. It's timelessness, the quantum field. It's like past, present, and future, all happening at once. So we could have, and so our soul is living many lifetimes all at once, which we're not aware of, because we need to focus on this lifetime. But we could have trauma from another lifetime, or let's focus on this lifetime. So just say you had a traumatic birth. You might not even be aware of that, and you're going through life and you're thinking, I'm fine, but and I say, well, have you checked your energy field? Have you checked? And say, well, there's nothing wrong with me. Well, actually, you might feel like that, which is great, but everybody, the one wound that everybody has, whether they realize it or not, is a separation wound. When we are incarnated and separated from source, from our home, from love, it can be very traumatic. And I've taken people back to that moment of birth when it was so traumatic that part of your energy, part of your light body, part of your soul runs away because they can't. It's scary, and
Well, a sliver of our soul comes
yeah.
into our body, but our master soul is on the other
Yes,
side,
so we're not
correct?
whole. So we're not whole. So and that's all part. John Butler said, "Make whole, be whole." When we make whole, when we heal ourselves and become our whole self, we can be our best self, and that's what I've become to do what I'm doing. So it's, we came here for a reason, and to do whatever that reason is, we can do it best when we're whole. So it's about becoming whole as well,
Do
remembering.
you help people bring through parts of their soul that is not complete on the other side or whatever, even though there's a sliver of their soul within them? Yes, right. And tell us, since you're wearing it,
Mhm.
about that amazing story of Sunya's magic hat. What would you like to tell us about? Wonderful book.
Well, I just knew I had to write the story of Gary's diagnosis, his battle with the brain tumor and dying, and me waking up and working with him. So I started to write that, but at the same time, all this other stuff was happening. Um, and then I came to this hat, and then I was doing all these magical things like the big one, the Extinction Rebellion, um, and becoming a shaman, and and going to the Four Winds and answering the call and everything. So it's like, no, you're not meant to write that. You've got to write this book, because this book needs your story, needs to come out now. It's a true story. The hat is part of it. It's a story, because this illusion is a story. It's a bit overwhelming for our minds, which is why we're here to help people understand it. Because even our life now is a story. In the infinite consciousness, the Akashic records, all our lives are there, and we can tap into them, past, present, future. But that's why Eckhart Tolle says the only moment that is important is now, the present, because when we heal ourselves in the now moment, and I hope this isn't sounding too confusing, but when we heal ourselves now in this moment, we heal everything. So when we heal those traumas and wounds from past and future lives in this moment, we heal everything, not just ourselves, the
Well,
whole,
we're part of the collective. We're part of the
collective,
collective.
the
So if we
whole.
heal, everyone benefits.
Everything. So this is why we have to focus on ourselves, and not focus on all the drama and everything that's going on out there. Or what could I do? I should be doing something. No, the best thing you can do is focus on you, focus on your healing, because when you heal the whole.
So, which leads me to the question of the Great Awakening, because we're currently talking about the whole and talking about the way people can find out about their path, which I'm sure you help them do, and all of that. We have this great awakening we're currently experiencing, which people don't feel right now is awakening. They feel like there's a chaotic mess going on.
Mhm.
And it's called our time of collective rebirth. And it's about the difference between living with a 3D or 5D existence. So, can you explain that to people? What is this great awakening? And why is it a time of collective rebirth? And what is the difference? Because people are talking about rising from 3D vibration to a 5D vibration. Can you just educate us a little bit about that?
Well, again, we could talk for days on this, couldn't we? 3D is it's a low vibration. It's a vibration of where we have a choice to live in fear or love. So the fear is the darkness and love is light. So it's duality consciousness. And it's time for duality consciousness to evolve and expand. And like I said, the collective has agreed that it wants to. But it's like resisting, it's fighting itself, it's scared of the unknown. But 5D is basically heaven on earth, living beyond fear, and coming back to ourselves, remembering who we are. It's all about remembering who we are and where we come from, that we are the light, we are love, we can live in heaven on earth. This is heaven. But most people think it isn't, because they're so focused on what's happening outside of them rather than what's happening inside. They've lost connection to self, they've lost connection to spirit. We haven't, so fear, you could say an energy of fear, which I call the controllers, it suits that energy to keep us in fear. It feeds off of fear. So we have all these distractions in the 3D density so that most people don't have time to dedicate their life to remembering their spiritual body, because it's not. So I go to mind, body, spirit fairs. We don't just have one body. We aren't just not this physical body. We have an emotional body, we have a mental body, and we have a spiritual body. Now, how many people are even aware of that? I wasn't.
No, I wasn't either.
And we have to heal each layer of the onion. And that's, again, it's part of the
That's part of
medicine.
the evolving process, right? As we heal, we evolve more, and then we come more into the collective mentality, which is the 5D existence, as opposed to the 3D, where it's all
Yeah.
about
So
me, 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 right?
so do you choose to serve self or to serve others. Well, and it's about going beyond fear and coming back to self and realizing that actually we are one. So what you do to one, you do to yourself. So what you do to even the planet Earth, what we're doing to Earth, we're actually doing to ourselves. So we're destroying the planet, we're destroying ourselves. So we're going through all this chaos to help us remember. It's all, so I'm completely everything is unfolding just as it should because of the prophecy, because it's time, the big shift, the great awakening, the golden age of Aquarius. I don't know much about astrology, but it's all there in astrology as well, like these 26,000 year cycles or something. It is time to evolve and expand and wake up. And so we're going, all this chaos is forcing us to see the light. So it's like we have to go through a dark night of the soul to see the light and choose the light. But not everybody is ready to do that because it's safer. The known, what you know, is safer. So they resist. Even my twin flame chose ignorance is bliss.
Tell us about your twin flame. And I know that the twin flame, when you have a twin flame, there's a lot of ups and downs of that journey. So tell us, how did you meet your twin flame? What is all of that about?
Well, it's crazy and magical. I didn't even know about different types of soul contracts or twin flames or anything before, but it was Gary that told me. So I was meditating a lot when I first woke up. And also, but going back on the Camino, 2022, God spoke to me through an old man, and I was just in bliss and ecstasy. And he was saying, keep your heart open to love. You will find love again. And I hadn't even considered another partnership with any other human. It was like, I've got the love of God, the universe, that's all I need. And he was saying, no, keep your heart open to love. It's like you're meant to be with someone. So I know I'm meant to do this work with someone because of the big shift. So anyway, so then the next year, my twin flame arrived in a crazy magical way, but I didn't know he was my twin flame until Gary, like 6 months in, and you do this crazy running and chasing thing, on, off, no communication, ghosting. I didn't even know about ghosting. I've been protected in my relationship with my husband for 35 years. So I was learning all this stuff about relationships and what goes on out there. So it was through meditation, and Gary was saying twin flame. And I thought he was saying he was my twin flame. But no, Gary isn't my twin flame. He's like a higher counterpart soulmate. So then when I actually looked up twin flame and what it was, I just had like a profound moment. Well, that's what's happening with this guy that I met. That is it. I'd never felt anything like this I didn't even feel this with my husband, what I felt with this guy that I'd just met. And then I learned all about the twin flame thing, and there's a minefield out there because some people say it's a load of rubbish, but when you're actually experiencing it, it's just a label. It's energy, but it is a real energy soul journey thing that you choose, and it's for the highest good of all. So you're doing this massive healing of yourselves, your masculine and feminine coming into balance. They trigger you. They trigger the worst things within you, and you have to heal them. And then usually the feminine, that is the awake one, because there's usually a conscious and awake one, and the other one isn't. So my masculine part of me was open to spirituality, but he didn't want to expand beyond that. And I had conversations about this with him, and I said, because we haven't seen each other for about a year, because he chose ignorance is bliss, because it's what he knew, it was safe. He didn't want to do the healing. He's got lots of healing to do. Mm-hmm. And I'd
obviously, a lot of people are like that.
I'd obviously triggered that within him, but I trust in my heart that we are not all twin flames are meant to be together in a lifetime, but I know this in this lifetime, and I believe it's my last one here on earth because I came here for this big shift. But I believe that we are meant to be together, working together to help people through the shift.
If he doesn't come along with you and open up, he'll just have to get in another lifetime, right?
Yeah, well, they say it's free will, it's a choice. But if it's destined, this is my understanding, because I don't pretend to know everything. It's just what I've been learning. But if it's destined and you're meant to be together, you will be. You know, God will perform a miracle for you to.
I've experienced that too. Um,
This whole thing is a miracle. I didn't even know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me ask you this. So we're talking about the ways you help people through energy work, and you do chakra, you do consultations, you work with chakras, you do these resets. Tell us what you do, and do you have a promo for our audience today if someone would like to work with you?
Yes, because this is my mission, or part of. I've got many missions I've discovered, but this is the main
They're
one.
keeping you busy.
They certainly are. Um, so it's not about me anymore. It's about why I'm here, and that's to help people. So if anybody would like me, I will do a free 30-minute consultation where I can see what's going on in your energy body, in your chakras, and then we can do that remotely or in person. But and I'm doing that because that's my mission.
Your mission, and
Yeah.
people will provide links for people to reach out to you, and for this promo that you're going to have, are you offering a free initial chat with people, talk to them about their chakras, their imprints, and their imprints and their blockages?
I'm going to take my hat off now, but um,
Got hot.
it squashes my ears. What usually happens is when I do mind, body, spirit fairs, because I love this work so much, and I'm getting a wave of emotion now. I love it so much. It's my calling. But what should take half an hour, sometimes I land up spending an hour or 2 hours with people because we're doing so much exploration with tarot and oracle cards, numerology. I do numerology as well, so I check their life path, what life path they're on, what personal year they're in, what their karmic lessons are that they've chosen to experience in this lifetime. And then I put it all together in a big puzzle. It helps me to get some idea of what I'm going to experience when we actually do the chakra reset. And usually when I do this work, people get very emotional because I hit the net. Well, it's not me, it's spirit, but I get to the root of the issues that they're experiencing, and they just, some people cry, or they're just so happy just to be acknowledged, just to be listened to. It's, for example, I had something come up in a session where a baby that was miscarried was an imprint in their field because it hadn't been acknowledged.
Oh,
And
wow.
just acknowledging that baby, it was like set it free,
Oh,
and
wow.
and was a part of a healing in that session. So I never know what's going to come up, and the things people divulge to me, because it's like they just open up. It's so healing, and
Well,
just
you're safe also, and you're there to help
it's a
them.
safe space, and just speaking it, just speaking your truth that you've been holding in is such a release and healing, and they feel like they can open up to me.
Yeah,
And
and you
when
understand.
and when the cards show it, and I say, well, this and this, and they say, oh my God, that's, and it's just so revealing and opening, and it's truth.
Right, right. Sonia, we're here to expand our souls. We're talking about that. And we're here to heal our wounds and trauma from other lifetimes, which you help people. So, and we've talked about by healing ourselves, we help to heal the world and the collective. Is there something else you'd like to talk about why it's so important for every person to do their healing work if they can? Because healing takes a lot of courage and it brings up a lot of pain. But why should people go through that?
Because it's also magical and miraculous, and when you come out the other side, you are reborn, and you can't. What I have on my business card, on the back of my business card, is you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And I didn't know what I know now. And it's so incredible and magical. And it's like, okay, my twin flame chose ignorance is bliss, but he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And I've met people like him that have chosen to expand and wake up, and they're just so excited and full of life, and it's not easy. That's why it's called the hero's journey. It's what Joseph Campbell wrote about. Once you step on that path, it's like there's no going back. I mean, you can get blockages and it can get stuck. Once you take that step, it's the hero's journey. It's so rewarding and miraculous. I mean, I'm looking at myself now as you're videoing this. I had another transformation last week.
Oh, tell us about that.
How many more transformations? An infinite number of transformations. So I was reborn because I had shaved my half of my hair off. It was very shamanic sort of look. But going back to Gary and Jesus, Gary is with Jesus, and there's the light of the world there. And so I knew I was working with Jesus through, and many other ascended masters, gods and goddesses and elementals and whatever comes to help, benevolent light energy beings, galactic races, Lyrans, Pleiadians, Arcturians. They all work through me because they're helping. But I had a profound revelation last week that Jesus, who is an ascended master, is the only way back to source. And God doesn't have a religion. God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is for you, this energy source from whence we came, the cosmic womb, we've come from this source. The only way back home, because Gary wanted to go home, he kept saying, I want to go home. He didn't mean home here in Southampton. He meant home, back to source. And Jesus was knocking. And when I had that profound moment and knew that I've worked, Jesus works with me, Archangel Michael works with, that, they all work through me. But reading this book, I've got to mention this book, Lords of the Seven Rays. So the seven rays is the chakras, which is why I know that working with the chakras, the energy of your chakras is so important, because you're working with these ascended masters. And something I read in that book was very profound last week, and I was reborn. I just
Wow.
Jesus is the only way back to source. And I just had to shave the rest of my hair off, and it was like a rebirth. And I feel completely different yet again.
Good for you, though. You're certainly open to transformation. Someone else would be saying, I'm afraid of that. I'm not going there. You go, bring it on.
And this isn't a religious thing. It's not about religion. As I say, I'm not going to go out there and start preaching the Bible. I'm still doing my shamanic energy work, because actually I read somewhere that Jesus was a shaman. It's all energy work, and that's what I'm meant to do. And there's another part of the one of the sessions is called illumination, where we remove the hucha, the heaviness, and fill the darkness, and you fill it with light, illuminate. So
Wow.
I bring in the light. So, fill you with light so you can become whole and feel and I just feel I was just in such ecstasy again last week when I had this revelation. It's just so joyous.
It's freeing. It's joyous. It's
Liberating,
wonderful.
yes. That's
It's
the
liberating.
word.
That's the
I'm
word.
liberated.
You are liberated. You're dropping more and more of the baggage.
Yes.
Right, and that you're freeing yourself. So now that we've said that,
Mhm.
what is the Sunya Joynes tip on finding joy in life?
Just be your true authentic self. Drop the mask. Be your true authentic self. But there's one expression, quote, life. What is life? Well, you've heard of Susan Giesman, no doubt.
Yes.
And her spiritual team called Sanaya. And I'll never forget when they came through and gave the meaning of life, which is literally LIFE, love in full expression. That's what we are, love. And when we remember we are love, we come from love. And I knew that with Gary. He came from love and the energy that is love. And he returned to love, which is truth. It's also the energy of truth. So I can only speak now. It's all about the truth. I embody the truth, love and light. And yes, it's really different. We still have heavy days. But it's not the
But
reason.
when you've grown from 3D to 5D and you have a heavy day, I think you look at it more, what's the lesson I'm supposed to learn from these challenges and this heavy day I'm having, as opposed to taking a victim consciousness and going, oh, well, me, look at what's happening.
So it's an awareness. It's expanding your awareness. So once you open your heart and you open your mind and you have an expanded awareness, and you can sort of take a step back and not react, that's having a higher level of consciousness.
Right. Come at it more from the witness perspective, from the higher perspective.
Or eagle perspective, because in
Right.
the lineage that I trained in, the Moon Key heart, because it's all going back to the heart. It's not about the head mind, it's about the mind of the heart, the truth.
I really want to say, as we wrap up, I really want to share this profound and uplifting excerpt from your book, The Story of Sunya's. I really love this quote. It says, believe in magic and miracles. We are living, breathing creation. Know that you are powerful, and together we can change the world. Embody love, joy. Remember your inner child. Let go, surrender, trust the process. Weave your magic into being, and most important, have fun. That sounds like a wonderful prescription for, as we were talking about, going from 3D to 5D, which is the element, the collective conscious. And Sunya, I just want to say my heartfelt thank you to you for sharing your great wisdom and for guiding so many others on their journey to healing and awakening today. Your presence and your insight have been truly enlightening, and I'm grateful to you for that. Thank you once again, and I'm sure everyone listening are sending you many, many blessings.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you for this opportunity. And let's heal the world.
And let's heal the world. We're doing it one podcast episode at a time, one person contacting you to get some help at a time. And yes, we are. Thank you, Sunya. And sending you so many blessings, as I like to say, to be continued. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at ireneweinberg.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and wherever you love to hang out online. Plus, we're on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to kit.co/Grief and Rebirth to check them out. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, many blessings.